I never thought much of the folders panel in Lightroom Classic. Boy, was I wrong. Welcome to the Visual Center. I'm Trent, and in today's post-production tips, we're continuing our discussion all about Lightroom Classic, specifically the folders panel. Now, I often overlooked the folders panel as just a reflection of the folders from my computer where my raw images were stored. Well, it is that, but it's also a bit more. Let me show you. The folders panel can be found here in the library module. If I move to the left side of the software, beneath the navigator and catalog, we see folders. If I select this arrow to the left of it, it will reveal the contents of the folder. Now, these items within the folders panel should look familiar. These are the folders which were created when we imported our images. They contain the raw images. So these are a reflection of the raw image folders on our computers. Let's take a look at this Finder window. If I select my raw images, we see the same folders on my computer as we see in the folders panel. Let's click on the first 2020 folder. We see here 2 raw images. If I select the 2020 drop-down and select the first folder, we see those same raw images from that same date. So right away we can see that the folders panel is a great way to navigate to a specific set of images. And in my case, as long as I can remember the date of the shoot. Now this top volume bar here where it says Macintosh HD, this is the name of the drive on my computer where my images are stored. To the right, we also see a drop-down arrow. This just hides or reveals the contents of that drive. Now, this part of the folders panel will be helpful if we ever needed to use an additional drive, say, to save space on our computer or for as a backup. Now, we would easily be able to navigate to the specific drive we need by clicking on its name. There are a couple of cool features just within this bar. The colored vertical line here you see to the left of the drive name changes color if the available space left on the drive gets too low. The color will change from green to orange to yellow to red. Now this initial change of color begins when we get below 10 gigabytes of space on that drive. Now also to the right we can see the amount of space I currently have left on this drive. We can actually right click or control click on this bar to change this metric. You see that you have disk space, photo count, status, or none. Now I usually leave it on disk space or photo count. Now we can also see the number of images here on the right side panel contained in each folder. I love that the parent folder reveals the sum amount of all the images contained within the subfolders. We can see here under 2020, 2, 5, 5, 2, and 0, which amounts to 14, as we see here next to 2020. Now here at the top of the panel, we see a search bar. This is pretty self-explanatory, but if our catalog gets pretty big and we need to find a specific folder, this search bar comes in handy. Now if you notice, there are also 2 icons to the top right of the actual panel name, a plus and minus icon. Now this provides a convenient way to add or subtract folders within the panel. We can easily add folders and even add a select set of images to the panel. Let's add a folder to this 2020 folder. So I'm going to add a subfolder. Now I can select to include the selected photo into the subfolder, but I'm not going to do that now. So let's call this test and hit create. Now you can see the test folder appeared underneath this folder I had selected. If I navigate to Finder, we can see there's also a test folder within that folder. Now let's go select the test folder and select the minus icon. This deletes that folder, and the same is true in our Finder window. Now if we drop down to the actual folders, there are a few more features I'd like to show you. These additional features are revealed by right-clicking or control-clicking on the actual folders. Now we can see there are a lot of options. Now one of the most important is create collections or collection sets. Collections will be the subject of our next PPT video, and it's going to be a good one. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss it. Now this option within the folders panel provides an easy way to create collections. Now the next important option is going to be mark favorite or add color label to folder. This is a great option which allows us to do exactly what it says. Add a color label or a star one of our folders. These options may be helpful if we need to organize our images or our folders. We could indicate which folders have been edited or which folders are new, all by adding a color label to the folder. Let's add a red label to this folder. Let's go to 2018 and we will add a green label. All right, if I right click on a folder again, we can also see that we can rename a folder. Now let's move down to synchronize and update folder location. If we ever move a folder on our computer outside of Lightroom, we could use the update folder location option to update the location of that folder so Lightroom can see it. The synchronize option is a great solution which helps to determine if there are any missing images within a specific folder on our computer that aren't showing up in Lightroom. Now let me add an image to this 2020 folder. Okay, I've added to that folder, but in Lightroom it's still saying 0. So I'm going to right click and hit synchronize folder. Now you can see here this checkbox is selected. Import new photo. If I hit synchronize, that new photo will now show up underneath that folder where I placed it in my Finder. Now let's right click again. Now the next important option is to export folder as a catalog. Now this is a great option if you want to isolate a set of images. And I've done this for a client. So when we opened up my Lightroom, all the images they saw were their images. I could also use this option to transfer a catalog to an editor. I would obviously also need to include my raw images. Now last we have Show in Finder. This is a great way to easily navigate to a specific folder in Finder. Let's navigate to this 2017 folder. You can see now in Finder, I'm in the 2017 and I can see the contents of that folder. All right. Those are some of the most important components of the folders panel in Lightroom Classic. I love to use this panel for specific navigation or finding my image files on my computer. If you have any questions, be sure to add them to the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.